Shred with Masters of Shred, your #1 source for all your daily shredtacular content. I am in the sunny, beautiful South Florida, the Hard Rock Casino, and I have a very, very special friend alongside of me. He is probably one of the most versatile, technically proficient shredders in the game today. Whether he is making a believer out of audience goers with the pop icon Cher, or bringing Yuletide Shred with Trans-Siberian Orchestra. You can also catch him shredding the night away in the Steal the Night with Whitesnake. Bottom line is he always brings his A game, and that's why he is the epitome of a shred showman. Without further ado, give it up for the mighty Joe Hoekstra.
Oh, dude, way too kind. What a good intro. Wow, how about that?
That's how we do it.
Good thing I don't believe my own hype. That was pretty amazing.
You may after this, so this could be good.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking the time out, man.
Hey, dude, thank you, man.
You guys are about to hit the stage with Whitesnake. You're going to do a killer set here in Hollywood, so I'm just going to hop right into it.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
We have a new album coming out on May the 10th, right? It's the new Whitesnake album, the second one that you've actually now recorded, but this is the first one with all originals. Correct. Which will be called Flesh and Blood, right? And the first one that you were on was Purple in 2015, right?
The Purple album.
Which you made your own solos for too, right?
Yeah, and guitar parts and things like that.
Exactly.
It was more creative than people recognize at times, but certainly Flesh and Blood is the next step.
Exactly. So for this one, now being okay, now we're gonna call this is legit next Whitesnake album in the lineup, and now I've replaced guys like Steve Vai, Vivian Campbell, Adrian Vandenberg. Was there any more pressure on this album than the one prior?
I guess no. I mean, there's just kind of always been, there's always a little bit of that with Whitesnake, and ultimately you're kind of just left to be yourself and follow your own philosophy more than it is try and have in the back of your mind who's been in and out of the band over the years.
Right,
so.
Exactly. Let me ask you, Red Beach and you, how does the riff writing work?
Well, we each did write riffs on it. Some of the songs would begin with an idea that David would have, and he would either speak with Reb or myself, or sometimes both of us, and say, where would you guys go with this? And so at times it was all three of us. We usually do it around the desk at the studio house with acoustic guitars or quiet amps. And most of the songs happened that way. There were some that happened with riffs beginning with Reb or myself, though, where we would show David the idea and he would grab it, say yay or nay. And, but yeah, it was a collaborative effort, and just honored to be a part of it, man.
And is there any song on the album that is your personal favorite? I mean, we've already got teasers of a couple of them, and they're all really good. Was there anyone that hit home for you, personal favorite?
Not really. No, my mind doesn't really operate that way. It's more like just, try and do the best you can at all times with everything. Yeah,
right.
It's just the way it is. People ask that often about live too. They always want you to say, "Still the night, man," but it's not really true. Like at the end of the day, the truth is that every note you play out there is important. Like if I played the hell out of Still of the Night and enjoyed it, but sucked on whatever, some song in the middle of the set, made a big mistake, then that wouldn't obviously do me any good. So everything is important, all the way from just simple rhythm guitar to fancy leads to whatever. It's always about your mindset. You should always try to do the best you can.
Very true. So if you had to sum up this album, and this could be really hard, in one word, this could actually count for producing it, getting involved, writing process, the whole process of getting it out there. But one word, but also in terms of the music, would you just describe it?
Okay, well, for me, I guess that would be exciting. Because I don't know if that's necessarily for the listeners, that's up to them. But for me, it's exciting because it's making an original album with a band that I'm proud to be a part of. And so, yeah, exciting.
And you have your custom Gibsons on this tour, right?
Mm-hmm, correct.
Which have
custom Gibsons, custom Fenders, and Atomic.
The Atomic guitars, that purple one you have, right?
Yeah.
Gorgeous guitars, and we'll put out the link on here. Follow Atomic on Instagram so you guys can check out their stuff. Amazing work. Brad Gillis plays them too, or I don't still plays them now, but he did, so that was because of you. So that's good. You would have known, but it's no secret though. You have toured the world with incredible players. Al Petrelli with Trans-Siberian Orchestra. You've had, Brad Gillis. I actually saw you with Brad Gillis 4 or 5 years ago. And you were the coolest dude because afterwards at Epcot in Disney, I was walking through to my girlfriend at the time, and I go, Night Ranger's playing here 4 times? This isn't real. And it was you with Brad. And I go, no kidding. And then afterwards, you stayed and took a picture with me. And I'm going to put that up because that was about 4, 5, 6 years ago. Maybe like 6 years ago.
God.
I'm like, no kidding. But you guys blew my mind because they got park benches set up there. And you guys were really going out in the crowd. And you got families and kids there eating, corn dogs. You know, right in the face. Like, this is so epic. This kid needs to grasp this and just appreciate this moment. He doesn't know how good he's got it right now. Like, I want to be that kid. So that was incredible. But you played with all these guys. Did you take anything from the experiences? Like, did you take anything away from playing with Brad Gillis alongside him in Night Ranger?
Oh, definitely. I mean, when I joined Night Ranger, I was pretty green, I guess, in a lot of ways. I wasn't nearly as established as I am now in the hard rock world. So I learned a lot from those guys over the 7 years of playing with them, and also my time with Whitesnake. I learned from everybody I worked with. All these guys, if they've been in the business as long as they have, like, Night Ranger's been around 35 years, Whitesnake 40 years. These guys, they've done something right if they've lasted that long, right? So you're foolish not to try and learn from them. Well, I mean, that's just kind of like a good lesson in life, period, right? To try and see what other people are doing right and learn from them. Try and improve yourself.
And those are some big shoes to fill too, because I don't know any players that can nail out the tapping aspect of taking that position in Night Ranger. And you killed it because you're a highly proficient player. So I don't know if that was a struggle learning those songs for you, or if it came with ease.
Well, Jeff's solo for Don't Tell Me You Love Me was always a struggle to pick. That initial pattern is brutal. That's really, really hard to alternate pick. I don't know really many people that can do it accurately, alternate picking wise. The 8-finger thing was the easiest for me because I learned that when I was young. I had a teacher named TJ Helmerick who's really proficient with the 8-finger technique, and so he taught me that Rockin' America solo when I was 14, and I can remember being in my room with my eyes closed working on the 8-finger technique and everything. So, well, that was the era, the 80s era. That was, and I just so happened that I had a teacher who was moving in that direction, so he was showing me that stuff. So yeah, I got, I guess, lucky in a way that just worked out. And then oddly enough, that a gold top had kind of become my main guitar at the time, just kind of like a little visually representative of Jeff Watson, and who I admire and respect totally. And I just, my time in that band was just kind of trying to keep his legacy alive, do the best I could with the great solos and parts that he had written. And then when, just like now with Whitesnake, when we had the opportunity to create new music, try not to let the fans down, man. Just do the best you can to make good new material. And thankfully, the albums I made with those guys were well received, and this new album with Whitesnake, people seem to really love so far. So
I will tell you, out of the tracks you guys have released, it's Whitesnake, but with a modern take. You can tell that the recording process has changed over the years. It's very well composed, sounds great. It's Whitesnake but modernized. It sounds awesome, but it still has the touches that people love with Whitesnake sounds. So it's fairly killer. I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks, man. I think it's a diverse album it's influenced by every previous era of Whitesnake to a small degree. So it's kind of representative of the entire scope, and that's really David Coverdale, his vision of what fits under the Whitesnake umbrella.
Exactly, yeah. Very true. You also, when you're not playing Whitesnake, you spread the gospel of shred with Cher. And to audiences who may not be familiar with that kind of playing, I can only imagine their just look on their face when they see you get on stage, and you have that Jackson. You use PC1, right, which is the Phil Collins guitar, which I've always looked at that thing and thought it's just a beautiful work of art. I can only imagine how great that thing plays. And when I saw you actually chose that guitar, was there anything behind that for that tour?
That was really just wanting to get like sustain for a lot of those solos when you don't have a cabinet on stage behind you or anything like that, to be able to achieve that. And so especially when you're working the deck, and there's a lot of times having a sustainer like with TSO2 that can kind of free you up holding a note to interact with the audience.
Right.
And so like I only really step out 3 times with the Cher gig, number one. So for the most part, I'm just on the background on a bandstand just playing solid rhythm guitar. So it's very, very little to do with shred. But then Bang Bang, I step out, and it's kind of my job to hold the audience's attention for a minute while she does a wardrobe change. And so that, in particular, having the sustainer does free up your hands.
Right.
So, and that's important when really the goal is not to, like, it's not going to be an audience of guitar players at a Cher concert. It's going to be a lot of people who are, where's Cher?
Right.
Right? So your job is to take their minds off of the fact that Cher is not on stage. So I do the best I can with that, and then I step out for Found Someone and Turn Back Time, which are just after that, and interact with her. So we're the only two downstage for those songs. And so, again, that's not as much about shred as much as it is kind of finding a cool level of interaction with her where sometimes you want to have symmetry on a big stage.
Right.
So if she's going to go stage left, I want to go stage right, but I also have to be cognizant of the fact that sometimes she wants to interact.
Yeah.
And sometimes she'll come over to me and she does something different every single show. So you got to really just kind of, it's more about the interaction with her than it is, again, about like any particular, like, check out my guitar playing. But I love the gig, I love the people in the band, and have a great time with all of them. And it's out of left field, never thought I'd be doing it, but I'm having a good time with it.
Right, and I'll tell you what, if I could turn back time, that solo you go into at the end, you don't, I think other guys would have the opportunity to just go completely nuts and just not do it tastefully. That solo is so well written. I can tell you must have taken some time to write it because it's so on point and melodic. Now I'm going to post a video of it too because I was watching this from 2017 at the MGM Grand. Insane, incredible solo.
Oh, thanks, man. Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of that is just learning what Dave Barry played before me in the band. So I learned, and then more recently, I guess as soon as I came in, there was a couple things I just played differently because I went a little bit more with the tasteless shred thing. Yeah. So the tasteless parts are mine, and the tasty parts are Dave's. Yes, exactly.
That's how that worked?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is just a side question. Have you ever thought about maybe starting your own business on the side, being a choreographer, teaching guitar players how to have stage presence? Because you have completely mastered that. I'm going to tell you right now, your stage moves, you get the total package when you hit that stage. And I know you're a big fan of Angus. That ain't Angus, though. Was there any player that kind of inspired your moves of just bringing it to the crowd?
Not really. I think it's just a combination of all the people I've worked with and what gigs you hold and people that have done those gigs. And so certainly the Night Ranger deck, having that be opened up like that, having Kelly, the drummer, set off hard stage left and needing to be as active as Brad Gillis and Jack Blades, who both are very active performers on deck.
Sure.
So that was a learning experience for me. Brad Gillis, I remember when I first joined Night Ranger, we went to Japan. This is a story I've told before, but it's a great moment of me realizing I needed to get my stage presence together. I used to hold my guitar a little higher, and I was really concentrating on playing everything as cleanly as I could, and we would come together and do like a double solo or whatever, and I remember looking up at Japan and the entire audience was looking at Brad. And Brad was making eye contact with them and maybe not playing it as clean as he could if he wasn't doing that, but like he was selling it. He was performing, and I realized right there, I was like, I need to get it together or I'm just gonna get blown off the stage every night, like visually. So that was the initial, I'd say the first real kick in the ass was being on stage with Brad and Jack. And then obviously TSO is a totally different challenge because they give you, it's a very wide deck, it's the whole width of the arena. And for certain sections, you're assigned like to stand in a certain part of the stage and entertain those people. There's never a moment with TSO where there's just nobody in part of the stage for the people to look at. They spread us out, so there's always somebody in each spot. And then obviously there you're kind of on your own. You're not like interacting with bandmates like I would with Jack or Brad. You're needing to hold those, whatever, say 500 or 1,000 people that are looking at you in that one spot. It's your job to hold their attention. Right. So that is a challenge and continues to be a challenge. And with Whitesnake, Man, I mean, David likes all systems go. He just wants us to start in fifth gear and throw shapes and go nuts and rock out. So I just try to do that the best I can.
I think you get the best of both worlds with you.
But I wouldn't say, I mean, it would sound too contrived to teach stage presence to anybody or to do any of that. It's just,
No.
I mean, my favorite players are the guys where the movements are kind of part of the playing. Like somehow I picture Angus Young even moving while he's tracking in the studio. I can see him still banging his head and being into it. Or a player like Jimi Hendrix where he would play things, but it was connected to the movement. I think those are kind of the best performers, where it's not just like there's a movement and you're playing something totally unrelated to it. It's about finding something that fits the music.
Okay. When I say the word Og, O-G, that's the way you pronounce it, what comes to mind?
OG?
Og or Og. It's Og or Og.
Oh, you mean because of the song On the Moon Is Falling?
Yes.
The Great Og? Yeah, that's because we used to go, when I first moved to New York, we used to go eat at this restaurant called The Grey Dog. And at some point I said to somebody, you want to go to the Grey Dog? And she said, the Great Og? What's the Great Og? And I just remember laughing, thinking about, sounds like
Yes.
It reminds me of like Zod from
Yes.
Superman 2, right? You know, kneel before Zod or whatever, bow before Zod. So it's just a stupid.
Because the reason I bring that up is because I feel that may be the most underrated, overlooked album, instrumental album I think I may have ever heard. Because I just discovered it and I go, I even played it for friends and they go, okay, so this is like, this is how I'm going to get into this. People always talk about who is Buckethead. We all know who Buckethead is. He's Brian Carroll. But people say, oh, he's Steve Vai, he's Paul Gilbert. Why the hell hasn't anybody ever said Buckethead's Joe Hoekstra? How has that never been a possibility? Those songs are incredible. They're so off the wall. That album, The Moon Is Falling, that I was just listening to them. It's like if Mr. Bungle and Buckethead got together to be Joe Hoekstra, born with that album, man. It is just so instrumentally there. It's incredible. And I think that album doesn't get enough attention. I'm going to start posting some things about it on the page because it's amazing stuff to put up there, man.
Oh, thank you, man. Well, great rhythm section on there. That kind of comes from my background with TJ Helmrich, the guy I mentioned when I was 14, teaching me the 8-finger technique. Him and a guitar hero of mine, Brett Garcid, made some albums together in, I guess it was like, the early 90s. And they did a gig once supporting it in LA, and Brett couldn't be at soundcheck, and I played the songs for him at soundcheck, and Virgil Donati was on drums there, and Rick Fiorabracci on bass, and so they both said, hey, if you ever have anything you want to record, let us know. And TJ, by that time, was actually head of the recording department at Musicians Institute.
Okay.
Which is but a lot of people have heard of GIT.
Yeah.
GIT is part of MI, Musicians Institute.
Right.
So anyway, so I was able to not only get drums done, recorded for free, thanks to TJ, but have it done in a great room with great mics and a great engineer. So that jump-started another section of my career. It's just if you always work and just keep jump-starting things and doing things, then certain things will take off. And I don't think that stuff will ever take off for me in terms of commercial success, but it's something I'm really glad I did as a player and as a musician, to have that there for those that I guess only know the things I've done in hard rock, which there's a lot of. So it's kind of cool to be able to show people that I've done other things. I mean, I've had way more of a diverse career than even is represented online, just because I had to find a way to survive during the 90s, which was you couldn't shred in the 90s.
Yeah.
Shred was the total derogatory term in the 90s.
Yeah.
Well, you don't want that guy as a shredder.
Right, exactly.
That was how it was born, not that guy's a shredder like it is now. So there's still part of me that hates being called a shredder, because I'm not a shredder, I'm a guitar player. I say sometimes I, obviously play quick or fast for the hard rock stuff in particular, but.
Well, I think it's definitely changed shredding over the years. I mean, I am not into the fast stuff, I'm more the melodic stuff. So how would you, and I ask everybody this, how would Joel Hoekstra define shred? Any way you like, really.
Well, like I said, I don't really I guess shred would be, I picture a guy picking really fast and shredding the strings on his guitar, right? Which I don't even really do that. I'm just a guitar player, not really a shredder. So I don't even know if I would necessarily define it or what shred is. Sorry, I'm ruining the whole title of your program.
It's just Masters of Shred. It's no big deal. What's the change? Masters of Guitar.
Masters of Guitar players.
That's better.
Yeah.
Because this guy doesn't shred.
Sorry, dude. I'm just being truthful. There's nothing bad about your program or the name.
Is it okay if I still call you a shredder though on the page?
It is, of course. I've been called a shredder like a million times. I just don't necessarily.
It's getting a better rap though. It's feeling very popular.
Oh, big time. No, it's the meaning
it's
of it is
back.
completely changed.
Right, exactly. It's getting there. And let me ask you, what was the one, I asked everybody this again, what was the one guitar you wish you never sold?
My first one, because I had an Electro Westone that I think reminded me of Angus's SG that was in the mall, because it kind of had curves and points, and I went, yeah, it looks cool. I didn't want to be Angus Young, and so my mom got me that, and then when it came time to like move up, to upgrade to the Kramer Beretta, I sold the first guitar. So it sucks. There was a moment where my mom sold it to somebody who lived in this Chicago suburb, and I ended up teaching in that area after I went to MI and all that stuff for, I guess, basically all my 20s, really 22 through 30 years old. I was there through 29. And somebody came in with that style guitar, a kid, and it had a lot of fretware on it. And I was like, I bet that's my first guitar, man. There was no way to prove it because I didn't know the serial numbers, but it was the weirdest thing to look at that. And I was like, you are probably playing my first guitar. And I was like, yeah.
Got rid of the Kramer.
That's one I would like to have back, just because I started on it.
Right, that's usually, and do you still have the Kramer?
I still have the Kramer.
You do?
It's in my
No
mom's garage in Florida.
Banana heads.
Those that want to break into her house, find out her address.
Well, that's going to depend. Does it have a Holy Grail banana headstock?
Yeah.
Maybe you should answer that.
It's I don't know what the Holy Grail banana headstock. It has the banana headstock.
Right, it does. Okay.
Yeah. There's a Holy Grail a certain kind.
Yeah, sorry, I think it was. I'd be wrong on this. I think it was like
84.
A certain time they made it, but it was. They do fetch a pretty penny, those guitars.
You're kidding? Really?
Yeah, big time. A
Really?
real Beretta from the 80s, early 80s with a banana headstock, fetch good money.
Really?
People want that.
Wow.
No doubt. And now they started remaking them, So they got the big headstocks.
This had an EMG pickup on it though too, which I think was put in it before I bought it. I bought it from TJ Helmerick. He owned it first.
No, really?
So
He had showers in those, so probably definitely aftermarket.
Yeah, so I'd be curious to know. That's interesting that those guitars are worth a lot of money.
Did you find ones with the Strat headstocks? Because they got the lawsuit against them. No, you actually can't make these, but Kramer was putting out Strat headstock guitars. Eddie had like a Pacer photographed with one. You find one of those, that neck is butter, and it'll fetch a pretty penny, dude.
Wow.
They hardly ever show up, but it's fine to bring that up. That's great though. Okay, so let me ask you this: will there ever be? You be honest with me, an NBA basketball player better than Michael Jordan?
I mean, it's possible,
But not yet.
I don't. Well, I mean, what's better, right? I mean, it's a team sport.
True.
People lose that. So nowadays, statistics don't mean as much because the points are way up. So if somebody's averaging 30 points a game now, teams are averaging 110 points.
Right.
So, I mean, it used to be 90. So there's a big difference there. I think that Michael gave a lot of touches up to run that triangle offense. So in terms of when people talk about averaging a triple-double or assists, and Michael gave up the ball, and there were lots of possessions he never touched it with the Bulls. So that he didn't facilitate near as much as, say, like Russell Westbrook or LeBron James, James Harden, where they essentially get the ball at the top of the key every single possession and say, make a play, either like drive or kick out, drive and kick, or go step back for a three. To me, the level of creativity that Jordan had and the will to win was beyond anybody's that I ever saw. I never saw anybody that wanted to win more than him.
Very serious.
And I mean, like LeBron James has more heart than Michael Jordan, says no one ever.
Right.
I mean, you can say he's bigger and stronger because he is, but it's a team sport, and I think that Michael realized that more than the others and compromised his individual numbers because he could have put up 40 a game easily back then. Even back then, when teams were scoring 95 a game, I think Michael could have scored 40 a game. He gave up a lot of touches to get 6 rings.
Right.
So until somebody can say they got 6 in an era where there's 30 teams, not in the Bill Russell era when there
Right.
was, 8 teams?
Right.
So if you were the best team, you were the best team. Sure, he won a lot of rings, but I don't know. And I'm biased, man, because I grew up in the burbs of Chicago.
That's right.
So
That's why I asked this question. Some of you guys are wondering, why is he talking about basketball right now? There's a reason behind this.
I think, honestly, probably more than that, I will say that I don't think there's been a duo that's fit together as well as Jordan and Pippen, because I think that Scotty came in really raw with all his physical talent, but he built, well, number one, Michael drove him to become a better player, and Scotty was also selfless enough to do anything around Michael that Michael wasn't doing and fill all the gaps. So those two guys, to me, even though like LeBron and Dwayne Wade were amazing together, they did kind of the same thing in a way. It was like one of them needed the ball. Scotty was, at the time, the best defensive 3 ever, and Michael was the best defensive 2 ever. So, yeah, and when they had Rodman in 95, 96, he was at arguably the best defensive 4 ever. So you had 3 guys that were the best defenders arguably ever at their positions on that team. So.
And all of them had big character too, which is big.
Larger but more than anything, because the Warriors, I mean, with the game changing the way it has, it would depend on what rules were played with this, any of these current Warriors teams against that 95-96 Bulls team. Could go either way, but I never saw 2 players play together as well as Michael and Scotty.
That's true. Okay, now I'm really thinking you're Buckethead, because you know what? He's a big Jordan fan.
Oh, is he really?
He wears a Jordan jersey just like you. So you just come out clean with us here, okay? You're Buckethead. No, I'm just kidding. You're not Buckethead. You're Joe Hoekstra, the mighty Joe Hoekstra, okay? That's what I'm going to call you in all the posts we do, all right? So let me ask you, where can everyone follow you at on Instagram and social media?
Well, you can start at my website, because I actually still have a .com, believe it or not. But my name is impossible. So Joel, Joel, Hoekstra, HOEKSTRA, joelhoekstra.com. Kip Winger said to Reb said, or Kip said, so who's going to the Whitesnake gig? Who's getting hired? And Reb said, Joel Hoekstra from Night Ranger, and Kip said, man, that guy should have had a stage name years ago.
Oh, you're kidding.
And he was right. I should have had a stage name years ago. It never happened, so.
Stage names are very hard to think of, especially in today's time. It's like you don't want to go over cheesy, so it's kind of where do you, back in the day you could. Nikki Six, I mean, that was cool. It still sounds cool, But it's tough to come up with a stage name, man. If you can find out today.
Well, it's hard once you've been around for a while. It was just too late.
People know who you are.
Too late for me, because by the time things took off for me, I was already a lot of time had elapsed. So, it was like at this stage of the game, no, I'm just gonna be one of those guys with a name you can't pronounce.
They call me Mr. Shred, and I'm probably the worst gimmick I ever made up, because people go, dude, that's a big title to take on. I was like, well, no, I'm taking it on because I put the page, I caption everything, right? I interview everybody. I'm not saying I am the Mr. Shred of guitar playing. I basically dug my own grave with that one. But
that's a tough one. That's sort of like the my favorite was Guitar World with the bet you can't play this bit, right?
Yeah.
They asked me if I wanted to do that, and I said, are you kidding me? No way. Because number one, I'm never that cocky about one thing I can play. I would never say that to the entire world about anything on guitar. Like, bet you can't play this. I mean, that's just like, no. That's not me. And you're just setting yourself up to
a grave, dude.
Crucified on the line.
So many of those I would watch. I go, that's not too hard. That's not bad. You know, that's what that was.
Well, that would be, yeah. I mean,
really? That you can't play it? And then those people get slammed on social media. Man, you just kind of got the.
Of course, man. And it's also.
I don't think that would be the case with you, though, but I'm just saying.
I actually like when I've done the lessons with them, and I actually really enjoy doing those because I would like it more if you could write more music, because when you do a Guitar World lesson, it has to fit in like about 12 bars of music because it has to fit on a single page in the magazine. So there's times where I start thinking about, oh, that'd be cool, and then I could show this, and I could show this, but there's only so much space, so you kind of get cut off at a point in terms of what you can teach people. But I still dig like teaching, because I used to teach 70 students a week for like years. So
wow. Okay.
I have a big background in that, like in being able to like actually explain to people what it is I'm doing. It's funny. I think a lot of proficient guitar players are like, I don't know, I just do this, I don't know, something like that.
Right, exactly.
I'm very like, you know, a nerd all the way where I know like everything. Oh, I'm using this scale and I'm playing it. Absolutely.
And you're willing to teach people. Some players are like, I'm not going to show you my secrets. Why would I do that?
Oh shit, are you kidding? Be honored for anybody to learn it. I always get a kick out of when anybody has covered any of the solos that I've played or anything like that. I think that's
give them an award.
I think it's awesome. Are you kidding? I usually like repost that for them.
That's tough, man.
Yeah.
Solos are great. So let's say your schedule just freed up for the next 2 months, and you have the inability to join any bands you want for maybe a summer tour. It just freed up. Who would it be?
Oh man, that's brutal, dude.
It could be a band you grew up on, you always dreamed about, or someone modern even. Who knows?
I think I'd rather like shut it down and like just practice and jam with people for like, rather than go out and tour, like have like the best player at this style come over and jam with me for an hour, and then have whatever, just have kind of like my own music school, but have everybody come to me.
Pretty good, actually.
Have all the great teachers come to me and jam with them, and just spend some time hanging with some great players and jamming more than like, because I mean I've got 3 great gigs going on right now.
Very versatile gigs too, so it's like different genres.
Yeah. So in terms of like what I would do in that department, I'm happy, and if it goes further, that's great. If not, that's also great. It's at some point. I mean, it always just comes down to like the moment you picked it up and like how you felt about guitar when you first played it. It's still more valuable than how many people you play for on any given night, or how many views you get on YouTube or whatever.
It's still driving me crazy. And apparently, Instagram's going to take away views and likes, so you can't see them anymore.
Wow.
Because people are losing their minds. Apparently, it's causing a lot of emotional distress. So I'm like, well, you know, sometimes I can see it, but I mean, still, come on. How serious you take this shit, you know? Come on. So,
I don't take it that seriously. I can tell you that.
Right. Well, I'm glad you came on this show, at least for Instagram. You know, that's good. This will be posted. We'll get to get another in-depth look in your life as a player, because you are incredible. And you know what? Here's a great idea, dude. I posted a video of you doing your tapping at a Whitesnake show. I think it was last year, or maybe it was during the Purple Tour. Mm-hmm. Over 100,000 views. It blew up. People love you playing, man. It's incredible. So, the comments were
that's the tapping made impossible thing.
You suck.
Are you responsible for that?
I had to put it. I had to. I'm
bastard, man. I actually wrote that site and said, "Can you take that down?"
You did?
Yeah.
No, you did.
Yeah,
no,
I
really?
did. Yeah,
I'm just kidding. That was not me, dude.
And then. Oh, okay. And then they were like, no, because that would lose, like, because it has like a gazillion shares and it's bringing everybody to the page. I don't.
But no, hardly anybody said, oh, that's not impossible.
Well,
everybody appreciated it. They all knew what it was.
there was like, you know, this guy's got no taste, because it was like just a segment where I was going like in 5th gear and just shredding for a little bit. And so, because the segment that was posted was just me playing 1,000,000 miles an hour.
I heard melody in there, man. I want to put it up.
Yeah, so I mean, that stuff just kind of is not my personality. I would never feel like anything I'm doing is impossible, or have like, I'm a fucking badass. Sorry, can we swear on this show?
Absolutely.
It's just not. It's not who I am.
See, this is why I wrote that. I wrote that because I thought it was a great clip of you playing, and it deserved more attention. So, is it impossible? Nothing's really impossible. It was great playing, and it is very technical. But maybe you know what? Yeah, maybe somebody else posted that. I don't know if that was me even. So I don't want to get.
It got around online a lot. I had a lot of people send it to me.
Are you kidding me? Really?
Oh yeah, I had a ton of inboxes from people. Like it made its way around.
You mean bad stuff they're sending you? Like, oh, this is not impossible?
No, I think most people think it's a good thing.
Yeah,
I think the only one that thought it was a bad thing was me, because I was like, oh, I don't know if I like that. Like, tapping made impossible, and it's me. I mean, honestly, most of my tapping stuff is there from when I was young, and I worked on that stuff with TJ, and then I do work to maybe keep it up or develop some things here or there, but I'm not like sitting working on 8-finger techniques 6 hours a day or 8 hours a day anymore. And there are some players that do, and those guys that should be tapping made impossible, not what I'm doing with it. I mean, I'm a guy making a good living playing guitar, but with a few gigs, and I got certain skill sets from certain areas you go through and all that stuff, but there's nothing I'm doing that's man, it's impossible.
For future
Bet
reference,
you can't play this.
I will never put that down as a caption ever again for anybody.
All right, deal, man.
Thank you so much for being on the show, guys.
Awesome.
Follow me at Mr_Shred_ on Instagram, and of course Masters of Shred. And if you enjoyed this as much as we did, subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Thanks so much for tuning in.